Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Champion Standard. Tonight, we're looking at Counter. The episode's called Deception and Destruction, and I've got my friend Coach Flo coming on, and he's gonna introduce us to Counter. So let's dive into it. What's up, Coach? How's it
Not
going, man?
much, man. How you doing? I'm doing good.
Well, we've been waiting to do this episode for a bit. We got Counter tonight. Counter.
Yeah. Yep. Been trying to connect for a minute now. Had some different stuff going on, so glad we're able to finally do it.
Yeah. So we've been looking at what 13 hours, 14 hours of film of Arbuckle and diving into all the schemes and everything. And I think one like the one play type that kind of stood out was his the counter game. Getting into how he likes to get players out of position and gain yards and score touchdowns and everything. And tonight you're gonna show us like just what is counter, and then we'll go into what you and I saw in the film of what does he like to do. But I'm gonna pull up some of his stats. So, how good counter was for Arbuckle last year. So we out of 13 we have 13 explosive plays for counter last year for Wazzu out of 57, which would have been almost about a quarter, about 22% of their explosive run plays came from counter. And then we've got 6 touchdowns, which was their most touchdowns that they had for, and the most rushing touchdowns they had was through counter. Well, how many is that? 6, 5. I gotta count this up. What does this look like? 6, 5, 4, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2. 6 out of 27. Dang, man. Another 20. So it's like 22, 25%. So almost like a quarter of their explosive plays and a quarter of their rushing touchdowns came from counter. Which that seems like a bit. Is that quite a bit? That seems like quite a bit.
Counter is known to be one of those boomer bust kind of concepts where if you invest enough time into it and you're able to actually get good at it, you'll see more consistency. But for teams that carry as more of an accessory run, you'll get a lot of like misreads, and we'll see some of those in the film, but misreads and fuck
Yeah.
ups where you're getting TFLs and stuffs, and then you'll hit a big one because teams don't fit it right. And so, with two pullers, which we'll talk about in a second here, two pullers moving gaps is pretty difficult for a defense to properly fit on a whiteboard, even. So getting guys to do it in real life is, takes practice.
Yeah. So looking at their like production wise, like this is like all encompassing rushing plays. A counter it accumulated 18% of his production, Ben Arbuckle's production last year, and he only called it about 17% of the time. So we kind of looked at the wide zone Clnic where the wide zone he was calling more, but he wasn't quite getting the same production in this. Like you said, boomer bust. It looks like he's calling it not as much as as many times as others. So you've got that a little bit of that explosive play. And look at average yards per play. So they ran counter. Let me see now. 56 times, 354 yards, averaging 6.3 yards a play. That seems pretty good.
That 6.3 looks good, but something that a lot of OCs will do after the season is like take out your explosives. Unless they were like, and you'll do it just to look at different numbers and the way things interacted. So like if you look at that chart on the right there, like
Yeah.
Definitely a high number of explosives, but then also a decent number of
Plays
um,
called.
plays called, but also like we watched one a little bit ago. We're about to watch in a minute here where you get like a 56-yard gain, I think it was 55-yard gain.
Yeah.
Well, to average 6, now you need to get a negative, a couple negatives in there to bring that number down.
Right.
So like that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like boomer bust, like you'll see lots of them where misreads or whatever, and they're getting tackled for TFLs, but then they'll hit a 60-yarder.
Yeah. Actually, let's take a look at that. You mentioned let's take the explosive plays out. I'm kind of curious. Now that you mentioned that, I can take that out real quick. Oh wow! You take the explosive plays out, it changes that graph quickly. All right,
Yeah.
let's look at that.
So
Dang, you're right.
and
So like you exactly what you just said. So like counter being one of those like boomer bust plays, you take away all the explosive plays, the 13 explosive plays that out of counter, and you have the residual. It's really only like 2.2 yards of play. So it, like you mentioned, like it is like a boom or bust type of play.
yeah, and one of like there's a million factors on all these different things, and one of those is just a defender making a bad play or an offensive player making a good play. So this isn't like a foolproof way of seeing how effective it actually was or consistent it actually was, but it's a step in the right direction. Because like one of the explosives, like the 55-yarder we were talking about, is it's misblocked and there's an unblocked play side linebacker, and
Mm-hmm.
the running back just steps away. He makes a bad attempted tackle and goes to the house. So there's probably some of these like 2-yard gains that are blocked correctly and maybe a misread on the quarterback or a misread on the running back
Yeah.
or a misread on the O line and not blocked correctly. So it's like it's kind of hard to fully see scope of it, but I think it really illustrates like the explosive potential of counter and then how hard it can be to execute
Yeah.
unless you invest a proper amount of time and effort into perfecting it.
So just for everyone that's like listening, counter was again 6.3 yards per play, and their second best average yards gained was that 6.3. You take the explosive plays out, it's literally like almost dead last. I mean, like you've got to go back. I mean, as far as like, I mean, 43 plays and only 2 yards attempt. You've got dart and power and inside zone and split zone and draw and duo technically. Why is that? Why would duo be the number one play out of explosive plays? Be, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. 4.5 yards of play. Only ran 13 times, but
I think
that
it makes
seems,
sense. You
well,
anticipate
tell
your more
us.
consistent. You anticipate your more consistent schemes to be ones that have lower, obviously, risk factors. Every time you pull a
Gotcha.
lineman or pull a tight end, you're increasing the risk that
The
you're
risk,
leaving
yeah.
more space for a defender to slip through. You're putting big dudes in space for athletic mismatches potentially, or you're opening up avenues for poor eye discipline on O linemen,
Yep.
rotations from the defense, like a bunch of different things that happen when you start pulling linemen.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but as we saw with the counter, like you increase the explosive play potential because you're moving a gap. You also increase the TFL potential because you are opening one
Opening
gap
gaps.
larger. So
Yep.
like duo,
That makes
wide
sense.
zone, inside zone, those are all concepts that are relatively safe just because you count like based on how you teach it, you count it out, you mic it out, whatever the fuck you do. And uh, everyone essentially on paper knows like who they're working to, who they got. It's a lot harder to let people slip through the cracks on those. Even though it does happen, it's much easier to keep track of who's got who at the zoo.
In essence, duo, no pulling, double teams, working vertical, counter, pulling two guard. I mean, technically, you're vacating two gaps. You got to cap
Right.
at least one on the back end. So as more deception that you have, right,
Mm-hmm.
you're opening yourself to your TFLs. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, now that you explain, I'm a numbers guy, so seeing it in the numbers and then you explain it, it makes perfect sense,
I'd be
man.
curious how many explosives are on like duo.
Well, let's take a look. I bet you not many because I it didn't pop up there. Let
That's
me
how I would say
see.
like
Oh
it's
wait,
probably
no,
one of the
it's in
more
my different. It's
consistent
up here.
concepts.
I only have like 13 calls,
Yeah.
but
So
then again.
That's filtering out the three explosives. So 16 calls, three explosives. With
Yeah.
explosives or without explosives, 4.5 yards a gain, which like
Yeah.
makes sense. It's like, those um less risk, less reward. You're going to be more consistent and get those hard earned yards. But then you want to try and mess with fits and alter the way the defenses are looking at things, and especially if you can key in on based on structure or based on coverage or based on front what they're looking at linebacker level.
Mhm.
Lots of times, like you want to have the pull schemes in your offense at some point so that you can try and take advantage of those things. It's like
Yeah.
when I was taking over for my first year as an OC, which was just this past year, I'm not acting like I got a million years of it, but um, I sat down. I kind of divided into four really groups. So it was strong and weak, pull, no pull. So like if we want to attack the strong side of the formation, we better be able to do that. We better be able to do it in a safe way that's going to be dependable to go get harder in yards. We better be able to do it in a way that has more explosive potential with a pull, so you get like duo and power, right?
Mhm.
So people
Yep.
are like, why do you carry both? Well, one is going to manipulate a gap by moving it to the play side. The other one is just mashing shit down, and it's easier to keep a hat for a hat. Weak side, you've got like dart or counter, and maybe like an inside zone or something, where you can still
Mhm.
keep a hat for a hat. Then you do one with a pull, one without a pull, and then you've usually got your base scheme, which can be any one of those four that you choose, or include something like we do with Y Zone, where you can run it either way. And you can mix and match all these
Gotcha.
different schemes to try and get shit that is safe for short yardage plays, for hard end yards, for schedule downs, and then stuff that has maybe a higher potential to take advantage of what the defense lacks at.
Yeah, so last year, like OU, we we really bashed our heads in with inside zone and split zone. I mean, it was almost grotesque for like the first like 5 or 6 weeks, and our OC was let go, and we brought in, promoted our tight end coach to the interim, and as soon as he took over, the counter game it just exploded. And Coach Bedenbaugh, you've seen a lot of the Lincoln Riley tape and everything. Coach Bedenbaugh is a long staple of counter. He loves a counter. And as soon as our interim OC took over, he started to expand the counter game. There, it was like 5 or 6 the like back half of the year. Counter, I mean, just all this, the counter bash, the GT counter, uh, uh, GY counter. They were even doing some motion lead Y counter where they would put the tight end out wide on 3-1 set and then motion them in to go and like literally, wrap inside and try to take a tight end after the guard kick out.
Mm-hmm.
Really expanded it out, and our offense actually started moving the ball. Like we were like the run game started to actually do something, and I feel like you go into this coming year, I feel like our offensive line young, but there's a lot of athleticism there, and this counter game being that it is the most rushing touchdowns that Ben Arbuckle had, it had the most explosive plays. I think there's going to be a little bit of that boom or bust, coach. I really feel like they're going to, in SEC play, I think they're going to really want to lean in on the counter game and try to get some explosive plays out of the run game. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's what this counter game does. It's you're searching for something to pop. You got to get
I
something to
think
pop.
it's not to discredit anything, but I think it's a little more calculated in the manner of that, where talking
Sure.
about like spinning plates as an offensive coordinator, I kind of just talked about like strong, weak, pull, no pull. Well, with
Mhm.
each one of those, you've got a back alignment associated with it.
Mhm.
So what defenses start to do is they start to categorize your back alignments, your back and tight end relationship, and the schemes you run from it. So offenses
Mhm.
started to look at those things as well and put in different concepts and meshes to manipulate those things. So if you're like you're saying with
Oh,
Oklahoma, you guys are a big inside zone team.
we
Well,
were.
if
Hopefully,
the
we're not
back is
this
on
coming
the
year.
right, so if the back is on the left, 95% of the time, the inside zone is going to go to the right.
Yep.
So if the
Yep.
back is on the left and the tight end's on the right, you're probably got a really high chance of getting split zone. Unless you got a running quarterback, then you can get inside zone strong. If the back
Gotcha.
is to the tight end, you got a really high chance of getting either regular inside zone or inside zone read with an arc by the tight end. So those are really like the four options if you're going against the inside zone team. So different
Yep.
things that you can do, like to keep spinning more plates, is you can do pistol stuff or you do something like counter. So like with counter, now we're going back to that first situation. We got the running back on the left, tight end on the right. You're looking at split zone to the right, which means the point of attack is to the right. Well, if you go cross face with the back, counter to the left, now you've lined up, presented the same situation to the defense, and given them a different point of attack than what they're used to. So if a
Heck
team
yeah.
knows that you're super high percentage inside zone, then you start throwing in counters. They might manipulate their reads that week at linebacker to not even key guards first. Maybe they're going, "Hey, everything's off the flow of the yo," or where the tight end goes. So
Mm-hmm.
like the Y is the tight end, so Y off is YO, yo, flow the yo, wherever the fuck he goes, you follow him. Maybe they start going, hey, follow the back because he's taking you to the ball. They're going to sling the fit off the back alignment. There's so many things that they can do.
Yeah.
But when you start throwing in counter late, you start to manipulate what they can do with their alignments and
Yeah.
how they
And
can
and
cheat your alignment.
and we haven't gone into Mateer's quarterback run game, but they do run. You've seen it. Some of the quarterback inside zone game where it's
Mm-hmm.
just draw an inside zone, and then they come back and counter you with the counter. So where you were
Right.
just saying how they were manipulating with the inside zone, they do that with Mateer quite a bit. I mean, he was their number one reading rusher. A lot of draw, a lot of inside zone. Work him into the low red goal line, then they run the quarterback GT counter. So
Absolutely.
here
That's
let
where
me
you get a combination. Oh, real quick before we move on, could you go back to like
yeah,
the schemes overall, like the percentage called? Production usage to the right there.
yeah.
So like I'm by no means a perfect coordinator, but I want to carry few concepts with multiple tags that have as much
Yes.
carryover as possible to limit
Yes.
learning on more people. It's a lot of negatives and positives in there. So what I'm trying to say is I want to make it easy to learn for my guys while giving the hardest time to the defense, which is something that every coordinator says, but I don't know how many actually do it. Um, Instead of having a play where I pull my guard and tackle, and a play where I pull my guard, and a play where I pull my tackle, I can call it the same thing and add a word or a tag or a situation where they call it to where now it's like, hey, it's the same thing, but so same as teaching, they call it.
Yep.
When you
Yep.
look at what they're running, it's like you want to have your solid, like your base, and you can base out of anything essentially. Like there's even like SEMO, Southeastern Missouri, who bases out of pin and pull. Most people would say it's a bad idea. You can only run it strong. You have to pull people. Like it's a bad base. But if you build around it properly, you can base out of anything. From the call percentages, like just by technicality, they're an inside zone team. Well, people say you can't date wide zone. So wide zone being their second most called, but not being the production kind of makes sense. Um, with counter also being that's another expensive play. So if you're going to base an inside zone and then carry wide zone and counter,
Yeah.
I guess my point being like
That's
I
a
don't know how much you need all these like split zones, inside zone with the tag, or wide zone with the tag, but I don't know how much you need dart. Um, do you need inside zone, tight zone, and duo? Like there's lots of things in here. Where I don't know if I need all these things.
yeah. I was gonna ask you about that. I mean, no, you're going into where I was thinking. You've there's a lot of concepts, and we looked at wide zone and the last one, and you had mentioned how it didn't quite look like that was their bread and butter,
Mm-hmm.
and we were going to go into counter, and I want you to kind of think of that too, like what is the bread and butter after watching wide zone and counter. Is it possible, the question is that we'll maybe try to answer at the end of the show is, is there too many concepts here? Do we not actually have like that identity or that we know this is where we can identify that this is what is Arbuckle's run game, like what something he wants to master, that. And maybe he does, maybe there's too many concepts, or maybe he was just trying to evolve into something that um in the limited time that he had. But no, that's a good point. Because there
I think
was, I
there's
mean,
yeah,
the inside zone game, most of that was like quarterback. I mean, like Mateer ran the ball a lot. I mean, he was their
yeah.
number one rusher. Like he ran the ball a lot,
I
which
think
I don't
there's
know if you could do that in the SEC, man. Not with
well,
those
there's
monsters.
back to the spinning plates analogy. There's lots of things that you can how you can categorize and how you can teach. And like I said, like I'm not a perfect coordinator. I don't know everything. I don't know how he's teaching these things. I don't know how he's practicing them. I don't know how he's valuing them. Like maybe if you ask Arbuckle, like maybe his answer is, "Oh, we're a quarterback run major." Like it's like, well, what scheme? And
Man,
maybe
I
in
hope
his
not.
opinion, getting his quarterback to tote the rock is more important than his O line being super proficient at certain things. I'm not saying
I,
that's the case, but I'm saying like there
you're
might
right.
be like there's room for that. So I'm not going to discredit some. I mean, the dude makes way more fucking money than I do in this profession, so like he's doing something right. Like the other part is like that kid can sling the pill. Like
He does. He can
Batir,
sling it.
he's got a rocket.
He,
So
he
how much
does.
time are they spending on as we've kind of like not debunked, but like moved away from the air raid title, I guess. Like
I
they're
don't know
running a
why
lot. Like
man, we got to get away
we,
from titles. I don't really feel like it's really the air raid. I mean, yeah, there's some of the core set of pass plays in the air raid, but it is not the leech stuff. It's not
well, if you go
any of
back and
that.
watch like the Western Kentucky stuff, like, or wait,
Well, he was
what
under,
school was he at? Was it Western Kentucky? Why am I?
he was at Western Kentucky and went to
Yeah, yeah,
Washington State.
right. Okay, I don't
But
know what that
even
doesn't sound right to me,
Western
but
Kentucky is different because you have Tyson Helton there, who's the head coach, who probably pushed a little bit of influence on push.
well, absolutely.
It's a
But
little
I'm saying
strange.
like
He got to Wazoo and all of this dropped here. I mean,
I
I
think
feel like I don't think he's as air raidy as what
absolutely.
people
I think
want
he got the
are
title
saying.
of being an air raid guy from being at Western Kentucky and having a
Exactly.
Bailey Zapp and having two back to back.
Mm.
What were they both like?
Mm-hmm.
Conference players of the year or something? The quarterbacks. It was Bailey
Yep.
Zapp and
Yep.
who the fuck was the other guy? I don't remember. But yeah, one of the really good quarterback before Bailey Zapp or after. But I think maybe like this might be his first time. Like one of the plates that he's spinning might be this could be his first time with 100% autonomy of his
That's
offense.
what I'm thinking.
Like that
I
might be a
really do. I really
possibility.
do.
It might
I
not
really do.
be. It might be him experimenting with shit. It might be him his first time with a really dynamic running quarterback. I haven't seen enough
Yeah.
past film to know the answer, but like there's lots of things at play that might be it. And he may have learned. Like we don't know what he's learned from this past season. We don't know the situation in the building. Like there may have been a lot of shit going on that he couldn't control, and maybe there was too much for him to control. Shit like that, to where now he has a better plan going into this with Oklahoma, and maybe he has more resources and different opportunities of people to help him out and become better. Like, there's so many factors. I could list them all day, right? How many former coordinators are on his current staff that can help him formulate a better game plan? How many people is he hiring to help him continue to
Yeah.
refine certain aspects? What's the experience of the O line coach and what they want to run? What's the experience of the running back coach, of the receiver coach, or the head? Like, what is all these different dynamics of that's going to mix and make the offense as a whole? So,
Yeah.
especially with the possibility of this being his first year with autonomy, I think there's a lot that is unknown and unseen, which makes it really exciting. But also, like, you look at the distribution of concepts called, you could probably guarantee, like, if I were Arbuckle and I saw something like that chart on the left, I'd say, okay, I need
Oh,
to pick
sorry.
one or two of these, like to where I want that number, like the number of calls to spike. Like people should know like what our identity is, like you kind of said earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
think inside zone, wide zone, counter, split zone, duo, dart, power, any of those are wrong answers. I don't think so. It's just like, what are we going to invest time in? What's our, you know, for me, it's wide zone. So our EDDs, our warm ups, everything is catered around like building wide zone. You look at our self scout at the end of the year, it's 40% wide zone in our run game. So like is one of these numbers going to spike? Are two of them going to spike? Are they going to
If
major in a
there,
couple of things, like narrow it down? Who could say?
I'm telling you, if there's gonna be if there's gonna be a run concept that's gonna spike, it has to be counter. And the reason why is because OU historically for many years has never been a wide zone team ever.
I'm
Lincoln
throwing my hat
Riley
in the wide
days.
zone ring. I'm telling you right now.
I know you're I think it'll be a
Well, if
part
they're
of
O
it.
line, I haven't watched.
I think they'll have a little bit of wide zone, but I really think with Coach Bedenbaugh on staff, and he's already proven for almost a decade of all the different he had Jalen Hurts, he had Baker Mayfield, he had all these different quarterbacks, and he had all these offensive linemen from Orlando Brown, Samia, and Ben Powers, and Creed. Like they ran a lot of counter. Like counter was their bread and butter. And like I just if there was gonna be a concept, I would hope that I like wide zone. You've got me into it. I think it's freaking fantastic. I'm
I'm
just
not even
saying
saying because I like it. I'm saying just like
historically from OU's perspective, they've never really been like a real wide zone. Not the wide zone that you've shown me. The wide zone has never really been a part of their identity. Not like Missouri, like Missouri's wide zone. I mean,
yeah.
it's
I'm saying
always
more
been
so like
counter.
looking at like historically is one thing, and there might be. I think there'd have to be alternate factors at play for that to be a thing. Like probably the O line coach, but if the O line is as athletic, I haven't seen the personnel at Oklahoma. Like I haven't watched a lot of Oklahoma film itself, more so just the Arbuckle stuff. But I haven't watched any Oklahoma film. I'll be honest. But like, if the personnel on the O line is as athletic as you say they are, more so than we see with
They are.
most of the Washington State guys, I think that's a super attractive situation to roll in there and be like, hey, let's get wide zone rolling, get it right. Counter is our primary complement. And I'm also an inside zone hater. So like
Yeah,
I
me
don't know.
too.
But the
I don't
issue
really like
becomes
it.
in like if you have a running quarterback like Mateer and like our opinion of him is like we'll talk about in a later episode, I believe. Being a better like perimeter runner, it's hard to get away from inside zone when you really want to force your
Yeah,
quarterback out there or do bash things. Like it's kind of hard to manipulate out the wide zone. You've also
yeah,
alluded to the fact that maybe they'll move to more protected run schemes
yeah. I do.
to throw, uh, or not to throw, but to run Mateer less. Just because it's
Yes,
the
I
SEC, he might get cracked and lose his fucking life. So
yep.
um,
You can't
maybe we
do it.
do see more wide zone as a base. And when they want to run Mateer, then they start to lean on counter and inside zone. Like there's a bunch of opportunities with our three
Yeah,
top
yeah.
concepts because there is a
No,
steep
no, I
drop with
follow.
their next call concept. So,
It
which
is.
split
Yeah,
zone is
for
also a
sure.
portion of inside and wide zone. So you can really
Yeah,
mix and match that one.
yeah. So let's get away from the dashboard and let's get into Phil. I just want to look at one thing. So again, 6.3 yards per play for counter with the explosives, and this is just some of the play concepts here. And 21 times for 9 yards of play was GT counter. This is just your classic running back GT counter. Most of it was 2x2. And then you got guard running back counter, three plays, 7.67 yards. They sneak that in at the low red, man, like somewhere like that mid red range where they snuck that in for a touchdown
Mm.
here and there. And then
Well, they have a hammer.
the
Weren't we talking last episode? They have a fucking Oklahoma's like a hammer at running back.
yes, so Xavier Robinson is like 200 he came in at like 235 or 40 or something like that, and he lost some weight. I really want to see Xavier Robinson, and next year he's a big dude. I mean, he's a big kid. Let me see if I
I
can
mean, well, that might be
since
like
you're
very helpful with that like the +1 protected quarterback run game, being able to pull the running back off a fake as the second puller
so
if
he's
he's a
6
big
foot
dude.
235 right now, but he
Yeah, like
came
that's
in.
perfect. That's a fucking H back in most offenses.
Yeah, I mean he's a he he did good. Like he should have been playing for quite a while, and I don't know why. That's a
I
discussion for
wonder,
another day. But
I wonder if
I
they're trying
think
to redshirt
him
him
in
or
wide
something. I don't know.
zone could be kind of the like Derrick Henry and the Yeti in wide zone. I think you get those defenders running horizontally and trying to make a tackle on a 235-pound back is going to be impossible. But
The other thing is like if he's that big, I don't know the dude, so maybe he is really fast. But like usually if you're that big, you're not a speed demon. So
he's
you
not a
like
speed demon. He's not. He doesn't have that second gear. But
right, but so
I
like
think
I was gonna say like with Bash, like getting receivers the ball on Bash, where he's now lead blocking for him. He's lead blocking
oh
from a tier where he totes the rock on counter or on
oh
wide zone or something. Or if he's like, I don't see him as being a big like
oh
perimeter threat just based off your description,
no.
like
But
to where
I
he can stretch it on Bash. So maybe they are going to lean more into motion and whatnot to manipulate like the inside zone and GT read Bash,
yeah
where they can get him lead blocking and go hit a skinny kid in space while a receiver runs really fast. So
yeah. So one final point before we go. So GY counter was not particularly well.
right.
They did not. Their tight ends weren't quite good at blocking. OU's tight ends the last several years since Braden Willis graduated, like 3 years ago or so,
Well, we're gonna see
have
too
not
in
been
this
good.
film. Like,
The tight
I
end,
don't
the tight
think.
end blocking at OU's not has not
Well,
been
I don't.
good. They wasn't
I
good
don't think
last
the
year.
issue here at Washington. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to. That was a dick move. But
No, no, you're
the
good, man.
the Wazoo like the Wazoo issues as we're gonna see. I'll say it for the film actually. I don't think it was all ability. I'll say.
Okay, okay. All right, let's get into the film. So what are we looking at, Coach?
Got the result pulled up from some other teams that run counter. Some of them run it as more of a major, some of it is more of a minor complement to what they major in, but different avenues in which you can pursue the concept. No matter what you do with it, it's still an expensive concept. But just kind of talking
Right.
about the dynamics of what, excuse me, what counter is, what the goal is here. Counter,
And
there's
we got
a million ways
Missouri up
to
here. Is this
got some
Missouri
Missouri. Yes, I'm on the wrong
from this
clip.
year? Nope.
This is all from last year, except for the Florida State clip. Sorry, wrong one. Okay,
Okay.
so counter primarily described as a gap scheme with two pullers.
Right.
It's a little vague, but if you think of like a gap scheme with one puller, you can think of different things like power, dart, G dart, belly, like different. There's multiple things that fit the mold.
Yeah.
Really, the only things that involve two pullers can be pin and pull and counter. Now, there's different versions of counter. So the blanket statement that you say two pullers. On these first ones, we got what's called GY counter. So G for guard, Y for tight end. And then on some later ones, you got GT, G for guard, T for tackle. So you'll often hear GY counter called GH counter, just regular counter, or you'll hear GT called counter tray, different things like that. Regardless, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, these 3 to 4 players over here, exactly the same concept. Nothing changes for them. Some teams will pull their center, some teams will not. It really comes down to what you want to do there. But in generalities, these 3 to 4 players, all the same concept. These threes, where it changes up a little bit. Like right here, we got a GY counter. So we're going to pull the backside guard, backside tight end. And kind of like we talked about a little bit, there's like the goal of this concept is originally to create misdirection with the backfield when
Deception.
everything was under center.
Deception.
Yep.
We call it
Deception.
deception.
Create deception with the running back in the backfield and the quarterback under center. So
Yeah.
lots of teams way back in the day, I say way back like it was crazy long, 2000s, 90s, 80s, late 80s, like they were all like not all, but lots of people were keying off the open of the quarterback sometimes, or the direction of
Oh.
the football, or the direction of the running back.
Right.
So
Yeah.
guards
Yeah. That makes
became
sense.
big read keys, especially when teams started to pull a lot. So what teams started to do is they would send the running back, if we're running counter, to the screens right here. They'd send the running back to the left, and he'd come back to the right. The quarterback would open to him and then hand the ball off the other way. So
Right.
that's why you'll hear a bunch of people, especially more older coaches, refer to counter as the backfield action. So nowadays, it's more referred to as the two pullers, because you could have like a zone counter or duo counter or different things of backfield action. really what we're looking at is the double puller. So we're going to get same thing as power up front to the front side, and we're going to get our backside guard pulling with intent to kick out, and then a tight end or tackle pulling with intent to lead. Right here, what we end up seeing is what makes this such a complex concept.
Hey, don't be afraid to draw.
I got you. So our first puller is reading his block on the kick key, or the first guy that we're not blocking. Some teams will do it different ways. Primarily, you don't want a tight end blocking a big D end.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can escape inside, like if this guy were wider in a 9 technique, they'll send the tight end inside to go block either down on a backer or out. If he's tighter, like right here, they'll arc him for the backer. They want to keep this dude off this dude. They'll have the guard, the big dude, go kick the big dude. What can happen sometimes is as he's reading this thing out, trying to kick him, you get this situation called a log. So you roll like a log, you roll the guy inside.
Yep.
So as he's trying to force the kick out, he gets a log here, which is the second part of the concept. Our second puller is reading the block of the first puller. So if we get a kick out, like we'll see in a little bit here, the second puller, tackle or tight end, wants to go inside the kick out to get to his designated linebacker. If we get a log like we do here, that guy wants to go around the first puller to get to his designated linebacker.
Nice.
In a perfect world, the way it's drawn up on a whiteboard that everyone wants to see, you get a kick out and you get an insert that kicks out this guy, because now there's no interior fitter for the 2 gaps that moved.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said 2 gaps that moved. What does that mean? It means right now, if you just, I'm sure most people could do this. You got A. I hate how it does that.
So Me too. I don't know why it does that.
I don't turn that off either. But you got A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D, right?
Yep.
When you pull anybody, you move the gap. So if we pull this guard for power, for counter, for dart, or guard, dart, whatever, when you pull him, now you've only got 1 gap right here because there's no person. So that's your A gap, right?
Yep.
Well, you've added a gap somewhere over here. So if he blocks, now you've got A, B, C, D, and E. Back here, you've only got A, B, and C. So it's already getting like a little complex with all the lines and all the moving gaps, the imagination involved in it. But at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, the defense. Move the gap, because they need a defender in every gap. No matter how, a gap's on defense, he's a defender in every gap. Whether it's a safety, a linebacker, a D lineman, someone's got to be in that gap. So if we move the gap, they got to figure out how to get an extra fitter or how to move with it. So going back to the beginning, counter with 2 pullers, we're not moving 1 gap, we're moving 2. So that makes it really hard on defenses to fit. And lots of teams have certain rules based on fullbacks or tight ends or guards, and they have to combine them, mix and match them. There's a million ways to do it, and it all gets confusing. At the end of the day, counter is cool because it creates those mismatches and the moving gaps for defenses to fit.
Counter is cool. I like it.
Counter is cool. So
counter is cool.
To get to the origin, we talked about the backfield action. There's a lot of ways to do it. We like on my team now at the NAIA level, we do it 4 different ways with the backfield action based on the alignment of the back. In reality, we could theoretically do more than that because we could do multiple for each alignment. But right now, we just have a pistol alignment, a sidecar backside, sidecar play side, and an under center alignment mesh. So there's a bunch of different meshes you can do based on whether you want to send the back play side, you want to go backside and cross face. You want to, for us, we'll fake wide zone and come back across. You can go right downhill. Nice. You can line up sidecar and jab and go, or you can sell the block with motion and go. There's so many things you can do with the backfield action. Primary reason is it takes a while for this thing to pan out. As you're pulling guards, it's a big dude. He's got to go all the way over here. You need to give this guy a little bit of time to get in a 1-by-1 relationship, typically, as it's taught. So 1 yard behind, 1 yard outside.
You're wide.
And he needs a little bit of tempo. He needs a little bit of tempo to be able to read this block if he's going to get the kick. Sorry, bad drawing. If he gets the kick, or if he gets the log, so that he has some space to react, either fit inside or get around. Beyond
How
that,
quickly, you're just talking about the Y, the H back, and how I mean, in game, that H back, that tight end H back, when you're looking at a player, like how do you get his decisiveness? Like how do you coach, reading the play, reading the block that
right.
his guard is making, whether it's kick or log? How do you coach that? Like he's
So there's
coming
lots
from,
of
I mean, it seems like he's coming from really far away.
right.
I mean, in comparison to the guard, I mean, it's almost seemed like it's a split second. He just sees shoulder and that his aiming point and go. But I feel like that H back you could have an indecisive player there that could make the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
How do you coach? How do you coach these two, the one and the two? How do you coach
So
that?
step one to coach this dude is to
The Y, yeah.
make sure this dude hauls ass. So
So
the
you want the
faster,
guard to go fast, go fast, make your decision now, so
yep,
that my Y behind him is gonna make the same decision you do, so that either we're both right or we're
right.
both wrong. Is that how I'm kind of feeling it?
So that's where you get into the boom or bust nature of it. This guy is making his
Ah,
block, right?
yeah,
This guy is reading this guy.
yep,
This guy
okay.
is reading that guy. So if there's
Oh,
something wrong
it
along the chain of command, we're not going to have a good play. So
okay,
that's where like people underestimate it. They go, oh, it's a gap scheme. You can run power and counter together. Well, there's a chain reaction of reads
yes,
on, especially if you're doing
okay.
like GT. This dude's not used to reading shit. He's used to running and hitting people.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as we go through the
So
chain of reads, like this needs to be drilled a lot. His read needs to be drilled a lot on what he's doing.
yeah,
Because this
yeah.
guy, you want to keep it simple for him. So you're like, hey, just look
Running
at this
back,
dude.
yeah,
If
yeah.
he messes up, we'll yell at him. Well, you do a lot of yelling at that kid. Like, so there's not many, there's not a lot of drills you can do for it, but there is drills that you can do a lot of times for it. There's a couple ways to teach it. One of them is for the second puller, tight end or tackle. If you see the back of your guard, thinking of perspective here, right? If the guard's back is to you, that means his shoulders are perpendicular to line of scrimmage,
Yep.
which means he has likely kicked out his defender.
He's kicked it out. Yep.
So you see his back, insert.
Insert. Yep. Got it.
The
So
opposite
guard,
would be
go fast. If the shoulders are square, the H back Y, the Y is gonna insert or wrap inside, and then the running back chain reaction is gonna fall right behind that H back,
yep,
following the
he is
wrap.
making his block correct. Where you get in trouble at coaching is if you try to tell him to make his block correct.
Ooh.
Because now you're asking his eyes to be two spots at once. As a former running back coach, I'm never a fan of that. I want a 1-2 read.
Oh.
So even here, like this is simpler than that on the running back, but again, chain of read. So the second option is if you get the guard pulling and you see his shoulders. So you see the numbers on his shoulder right here. That
Yep.
means he is square to the line of scrimmage, which means you need to go around him. And you ideally would still like to get a near shoulder block by both of these guys. If you log, you're always not going to get it. But if you just think of it as the phrase is, this guy's what shoulder is nearest his kickout defender? Well, that one.
Mm-hmm.
What shoulder the defender's nearest? That one. You want to make these two shoulders hit each other.
Oh, okay.
So the way that lots of people, like you were talking earlier about Kyle Flood, the way that he teaches it,
Yep. Yep.
it's very similar to the way I teach it. I teach the near shoulder. Well, if we see this defender crash way inside, just the momentum of him hauling ass, that shoulder is his left shoulder here has to get to this guy's right shoulder. Well, he's going to have to try and force it all the way around. It turns into a log automatically
It
on the
turns into a
fly.
log.
But now the 10's got to read it quickly, make the right reaction. What's up?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was gonna say to the audience, so what Coach was referring to is Kyle Flood of Texas has he he promotes a non-negotiable kick, a non-negotiable kick out by the guard. But unless that kick out the D end gives up ground or gives up the line of scrimmage, and by nature of that, if the defender is giving up the line of scrimmage, he is turning his shoulders, like what Coach Flo is saying. The aiming point changes to where that ends up for the guard into a natural log block instead of a kick.
Yeah.
So
So one of the most
I
common
mean,
techniques on defense that you'll see is
yeah,
a wrong arm. So
a
like
wrong arm. Yep, yep,
if you see what they mean by that is like this left arm of this defender is the closest one to his gap.
yeah,
He's in the C gap here. So
yep,
his left arm is closest to the oncoming blocker. You'd imagine that's the correct arm to take on the blocker. Well, they're using, and there's spill and box techniques by edge players. When you get pulls or you get a reach or a kick out or whatever you're getting, based on the coverage structure and the linebacker alignment and who the support is, they'll teach this guy to spill or box it. A wrong arm is a spill technique. So he's going to take this is correct arm. So that means his right arm is his wrong arm. So he'll take that right arm and go all the way across, and he's going to end up all the way like down the hash here on this one.
yep, yep,
So he goes wrong arm. He's literally on the hash.
yep.
So like you can't ask this guard to kick that thing. He's got to fight to
No,
get that alignment that we taught him, that aiming point that we taught him, and then they'll turn into a
right.
log, create more space.
It creates, but it naturally it works for the offensive advantage. If the defense does that, right, and if you've taught it, coached it properly, for the guard to, whether he's told to non-negotiable kick or to read it, he sees it, he's going to just naturally take the defensive player where he wants to go, and that is out of the play.
So that gets into a whole different bag, which is how defenses choose to fit counter. So rarely will you see a team try and box it. If you're a wide zone team like we are, you will see some teams try and box it to the strong side. But for the most part, teams want to spill this block because they want this guy running to the sideline.
Sure, yeah.
Because when you
Create
move
angles,
two
elongate
gaps,
the angles. Yeah.
right, and when you have 1, 2, 3, 4 gaps back here. You got 1, 2, 3, and probably a fourth guy somewhere out there to fit those gaps. When you move 2 of those gaps, so we got rid of that gap, got rid of that gap. Now we've got 1, 2 gaps and 1, 2, 3 defenders. One of these dudes is in the wrong spot.
Yep.
So the reason why a lot of teams want to spill it is as this guy is going to fix the fit with the moving gaps. This guy's playing the edge. This guy has to go fix the fit of one of the pullers. If you make the running back run to the sideline, now you're spilling him to all your help. And you're letting these guys who are more athletic than these guys go run sideline to sideline and make tackles.
Yep, yep.
So if you're a big counter team, you'll see lots of spill technique. If you're a big power team, you'll see lots of spill. The only time you really see lots of box techniques is if you're a big strong side zone team.
That's interesting because, watching OU's defense last year, they played a lot of 3 high safety look and 3 down, 3 high, and versus actually to Tennessee and Alabama, and they played hell of a great defense because they did exactly that. They spilled it to the outside and they used their third safety to come in and mop it up over and over again.
When I was at Rhode Island, we played against Delaware. He was one of the innovators in 3 high, right behind Iowa State. They had a middle safety called Noah the Hitman Plaque.
And yeah, man, I love that.
He had 2 rules in the entire game. They were a quarters-based scheme. I'm exaggerating with 2 rules. He probably had a lot more, but essentially he was relate to 3 in the pass game and go kill somebody in the run game. So they would spill everything and get it off the table and have Noah the Hitman Plaque go murder someone, and he took some kids' face masks off.
So OU's got their own version of a hitman. His name is Robert Spears Jennings, and he's my favorite player on the team. Like,
that is awesome.
I love hard hitting safeties. No, dude, I love the guy because he is so quiet and humble off the field. Like, off the field, he's not loud. He's just so cool, calm, and collected, chill. He gets on the field, and
Menace.
dude, he just clacks every time he hits somebody. It is just
That's
clack.
awesome.
Pads are popping. I mean, the dude is he's a Sunday player, man. I can't
That's
wait for him to
badass.
go to Sunday. Anyway, but 3 high, spill and kill. That's what OU's defense did quite a few games last year and did pretty well.
So we just talked about the basics and got a good look at the log. Now we're getting. I'd imagine this one's an error, so we'll probably come back to it. But different tight end things you can do to the strong side. So if we go back to the first one, we get a head up technique on the tight end, call it a 6 or whatever you want to call it. Some people are 6 high, 7 or 9, whatever. Head up on the tight end. We talked about this guy is usually not as big as this dude. Don't want him to
Right.
block a head up technique. Let's go pull and kick him, influence him, and arc him. Well, now you get a defender outside your tight end. So this is what we saw a lot of at my school. Most teams, what they're going to do is they're going to leave their ID the same, that backer on the backside. They're going to gap set or whatever you want to call the technique here by the backside tackle. They're going to get some form of double teams and down blocks, gap down backer rules on the front side of the backside guy, and they'll send his tight end, instead of blocking the big dude, they'll send him down to the other backer. So they don't do that here. I'd imagine this is incorrect by this number 7. I'd imagine he's not supposed to go block the biggest guy on the perimeter with bad leverage, but I mean, it works out. So it turns into a pseudo kick, and the tight end reads it correctly. We get a good run. Main thing to look at here too, or another thing to look at here too, is the footwork of the back. He's going to drop step and roll downhill and then bend it to the play side. So you've got different schools of thought on counter. One being it is a down the hash forward A gap run, which sometimes it is. You've got teams that are going to read the second puller, which should take you to where it goes, which can bounce it or hit it inside. Different variations of what might happen based on the reads of these two. And then you got teams that are going to try and force it outside and force the log, which I'm not a fan of. No, this is also not what I imagine you're supposed to do. Where's the? I think it's the Texas one.
Ugh, burnt orange, Texas. Ugh.
Oh God. So here's another look at the log. We talked about Kyle Flood. He's teaching these guys non-negotiable kick. Yep. We're gonna watch 72. That's not great. Get out of his stance, but he's still fighting to get to that aiming point. This shoulder should hit that shoulder, so it's gonna roll him into a log. Tight end reaches really well and gets the kick out on the second level. That is ideal when you get a log. So O-line gets out, logs it, tight end goes around. We're reading the second guy at running back. And here we're seeing a play side mesh. We're able to go crease him. So if we're getting a spill by this guy, we talked about how you got to spill and kill, right? So if we get a spill, this dude is usually the box, and you'll get a cap player. I don't know who their cap player is. I'd imagine it's this backside guy. I'd imagine it's him.
In the play.
So he spills it. He boxes it. The cap gets cut off by the double team. Green grass. So their only hope in this case is if this guy also spills it, which how do you communicate and teach that? Lots of moving parts. Sorry, it took us a while to find it. Here's how you draw it up, envision it. This is how you dream about it. Guard's going to get the kick out. Tight end's going to insert and get up on the linebacker. We're going to get a downhill mesh, hit inside the kick out of the tight end. This is one of the prettiest counters of all season last year. So kick out, crease.
Wow.
And like I said in the beginning, these three, same thing as power. This dude, same thing as power. It's just switching the responsibilities of the tight end and the guard. And power, this dude would kick out, this dude would lead. Counter, this dude kicks out, this dude leads. So a different mesh also from this. So like many ways you can do it. Yeah, so that was all GY. We're pulling the tight end. GT, all you're doing is taking, instead of the tackle being responsible for the end man, the tight end is responsible for the end man. And now we're pulling the tackle.
Capped.
He's your second puller.
GT counter capped. Is this 2x2?
Capped.
Yeah.
So this is 23 Florida State. They were kings of counter. First puller is the same. Your second puller changes. Read of the running back is just the second puller. Now, with any capped run where the tight end's got the end man, as we'll see with Wazzu, you've got arcs that you can do. You've got caps that you can do. You've got reads with the quarterback, bashes, all that stuff. So
Nice.
GT is where it really expands, I think, for Oklahoma. And then we're gonna jump into. So those are mostly just highlights, right? Like those are
Yeah,
all good
yeah.
clips that I set aside. So now we're gonna watch Wazzu run it.
Yeah, let's look at
And
Wazoo. So like they I feel like they were kind of I thought they were good. I mean, like we were looking at the data. They they popped some good plays at the early part of the season. I felt like they would. I mean, man, just the run game just seemed very focused on the tier and the inside zone and the draw. And here, so this is Portland State that we're about to watch, and Portland State not very good. And I noticed that same as wide zone that we watched with counter as well. A lot of the plays that they popped, it looked like it was a 3-man surface. I mean, we'll go through them, but
yeah,
it felt like quite a few of them are that 3-man, the odd front, if you want to say it that way. But
right. So like a 3 down line. This one's the kind of tweener. It's a reduction front. Reduction meaning if you run a 4 down under front, you'd have a C gap, an A gap, a B gap, a C gap. They just bumped everybody over half a shade.
oh, okay, I
So
see now.
it's
Yep.
essentially a similar thing. It messes with O line identification based on how people used to do it. But first one right here out the gate, it's a 50, however many yard run. I don't know. It's a long
It's like
touchdown,
it's quite a
but it
bit.
is not blocked correctly. So we're gonna have plenty of space. Like this is in a wide 5. Guards pulling. He should have plenty of space to get that near shoulder. Again, like I don't know how they're teaching it, what they're teaching, what they're calling. But in my book, like he should be able to gain some ground to line of scrimmage and get this kick out. The tackle should then read that block and get inside. And we got plenty of space here for it, and we don't
Lots of space.
get it.
And
So,
tackle like whiffed on everything.
so in my opinion, the tackle reads it correctly. The guard doesn't. Like the tackle sees shoulder, so he goes around like he should.
Oh, I see. He's reading the guard
Right.
and
Yeah.
he guard
Mm-hmm.
wraps or sorry, guard logs when he should have kicked it out and
Right.
would have put the tackle inside, but instead he read the shoulders and thought he was supposed to run.
Correct.
Wow, okay.
So, like a lot of moving parts here. It's counter, so it's going to be expected. But we
Right,
get an
yeah.
incorrect log, a correct wrap, and then an incorrect read to go inside.
And it popped for a big play.
And then we get a missed tackle by the play side linebacker, and we go for like 55 yards. Good receiver
Yeah.
blocking. So, this is a cut up, so it's not a full sample size, but even off the numbers and whatnot, like one of their explosives was, blocked incorrectly. So one of, what was it, 13 or something?
Yeah,
So
we had
those,
13 explosives. I tried to put them all in there. I don't know if I got them all in there or not, but
it's all good. This is probably one of their cleaner ones, even though it looks a little sketchy up front, but like we get the correct read, we get the kick. A little bit what I was talking about earlier, where the edge player is outside the tight end, so you'll send him inside. We'll now take our gap set right here, the inside technique, get a double team back here, money right here. If not, call a double team, knock the hip, climb to 40. We'll kick, we'll lead. Corners can't tackle, so I block them. So this is read correctly. So like drastic difference from the last one, but
so in OU's perspective, the again, like I've mentioned before, tight end room is not good. Like it just hasn't been good for 2 or 3 years. We converted one of our linebackers to be a tight end who hasn't played tight end. I don't think he's actually have ever played tight end. I think he was a receiver in high school. How would you? What are some of the traits? What are some of the things that you have to do at the tight end H back position to run counter, to block it
You gotta
right.
be sort of like decisive and athletic. So you got to get
Yeah.
like you're over here. Your
Yeah.
target defender in this case on paper is depending on how they're teaching is 40 or 4. Like you gotta be athletic to get over there, and you gotta be able to use your athleticism with a decisive read on the guard. So like we get the kick here. So this guy, there's no way he does the right thing. We get a kick here. So you gotta be in your 1-by-1, see that kick, and get vertical in a hurry.
That's a travel, man.
Or the other option, he plays it correctly. We get a log, and now you're out in space.
So that's been the concerning thing on my side on as far as the Y H-back counter, because even last year when we had tight ends that played the game, it didn't seem like effort was quite there for the first half of the season, and now we've got a new season. We brought in some FCS guys to come in. Some bigger. Carson Kent is one. He's like 6'6", 7 or something. But the spring hype train is on Clnic being that tight end, a guy that I don't think he played tight end in high school. Somebody's gonna have to let me know if he actually played
There's
tight end in high school. I just feel like he was a linebacker for OU for 3 years, and he's considered our number one hype tight end. And I'm like, I don't know if he can do this. I mean, this takes a lot of practice. This is like a ton of freaking practice to be able to
right.
run this
I mean,
blocking here for a
there's a
counter.
lot to be on tight end, and it comes down to like we talked about earlier a little bit, like how you teach it, what you teach, what you choose to install, and then also what you choose to run with him in the game. Like calling plays last year, I knew there's some shit I can't call when so and so's in the game. It's like we had a converted linebacker as a fullback, and it's like if I call certain alignments or concepts, so like he was actually still playing linebacker, so it's like he's learning a couple extra things. Like I can't call my whole sheet with him on the field. So you
Yep.
never know if it might be one of
Nope.
those
Yep.
situations, or maybe the kid's super smart and he figures it all out. And you hope for that. But with counter, much like an inside zone, or much like a really just any concept where you have multiple options for your tight end can do, there's still plenty of stuff you can do with them using counter. So like I'm sure we'll see it throughout this cut up a little bit as we breeze through it, but can double pull. Now you've got your cap, which you probably down block here in this case. But you got cap, you've got arc, you've got put them in the backfield and arc. You've got GY. You've got many different things you can do, all of which I think favor a maybe not less experienced, but a not as brutish tight end, because this block is also not one that requires. It's not on a big dude, right? You're blocking a linebacker or a safety, and it's not something that needs to be sustained until tomorrow. So
Okay.
if you time out counter correctly, he should be 1-by-1 from the guard. He should be about 1-by-1 in his read from the tight end. Meaning when that tight end makes contact, we see he gets hung up, but like boom, we're out the gate.
No, not
So
bad.
it's not if it and nothing ever goes how you design it on paper, right? But
Right.
when you hit counter perfectly, like that Texas one, that's a different cut up. But that Texas one, it's like it was boom, he's out the gate. So that's in a perfect world. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be sustained for forever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. Canic. Jaron Canic, who's the tight end I'm referring to. I mean, he's got tons of athletic ability, tons. Like he is an athlete. Like he is a baller athlete. It just he hasn't played tight end, so it'll be a learning curve for him. And I think it's gonna be more the game speed, like you mentioned, the decisiveness, the game speed, the decisiveness, where he needs to be, get there now, type of thing. And
Yeah.
so this is like a motion lead, or not
Yep.
motion lead, but putting the motion
Motion
on
GY.
yeah, motion GY. I put that in there because I like it. I think it's cool. Kind of get the
Yeah.
defense to think a little bit. Think a little bit. What are they doing here? Especially in the empty set that you got Mateer in right now. They love to wear the run empty, man. They
Yeah, so
love to
there's
empty.
there's a lot there's a lot going on here. So like I talked earlier about backfield sets and how you can use it with inside zone to try and offset your tendencies. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing a lot right here in terms of there is no running back. So what's the run tendency there? There's no tight
Mm-hmm.
end. So what's the run tendency there? Now they're motioning men, changing all those numbers really quick, and they're hiding a
Yep.
condensed split with the number one or number two receiver.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot
And
of
they can
things going
hit you
on
with a pop.
where,
uh,
yep,
They ran this one. We'll look in the past game in another video down the line, but they were in this exact formation. Brought the tight end in, and they ran a little pop pass to that slot receiver, and that little that Will backer right there, that little overhang that just moved in. Yep, that guy number 13.
yeah, there you go.
He A player in his same position creeped in and they hit a easy little pop slant to that because they saw that motion of that tight end to run that quarterback counter and they just took the easy yards for a touchdown.
I bet you they saw it from this game because
I
like
don't think it might be. It
no, I'm
might
saying
be
like, I
from
bet you
this
they
game.
saw it. I bet you they saw it in this game, or like we got it because like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
talked a lot about moving two gaps. So when you move two gaps, he's your cat player. So he's your
Mm-hmm.
spiller box. He's the opposite. He has to go to the top and make the tackle, unless you're going to fit somebody else down, which they're all in man coverage, so they can't. At least over there, I think they are. Yeah, they're all in man over here, so they can't. So when he's indecisive here at linebacker, 13 is, he gets two pullers and is still in the backside C gap.
Yep.
So he makes contact here. No one touches him, but he's not able to make tackle in time. Additional point
Touchdown.
we talked about on the first one. This is a touchdown. Lots of people put this down as a good play. Kick out. That's really good by the right guard. Tight end misreads this thing.
Yeah, he does.
So he's about one by
Get in
one.
there,
He just
man.
kind of hops at the end there. It's like right there. He should be that left foot instead of being both feet off the ground, like I literally call him.
Climb. Go.
Our double team is mistargeted. You know, there's myriad of issues on this particular call, and I don't, again, not in the room, don't know what's going on, but just the way that I know counter to be, it should be here, 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 to some degree to back here, or kicking, or leading.
Yep.
So there's not many worlds in which I think coaches are telling him to go frontside. That being said, I've seen my own guys do it a number of times, but
Oh.
yeah, because now we've got misread and couple sloppy clips early, but here we got 12 set. We get the bash. So this kind of was talking about with the arc opportunities. If you have a more athletic, not as devastating of a blocker tight end, you can easily get him out on rovers or nickel players, safeties, things of that nature. You can cross block, and get him out on corners depending on what the situation is or the defense you're going against.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but different ways you can protect the perimeter as you read GT here. So we're going to get the backside guard, backside tackle pull. And then they're bashing this. All bash means is back. So we're considering him the back in this case. Back is away from the scheme.
Yep.
So the scheme is going to the left. We're getting the kick. We're getting hopefully a lead. And then the quarterback's now toting the rock on the counter. And then whoever the ball carrier is, be it the back or in this case the motion man, would be the perimeter portion on the give now. So we're toting it. We get another kind of iffy read by the guard here. We get a kick, but he shows his shoulders, so tackle's playing a little fast. He's pretty tight to him, makes the wrong read. You know, a good play on paper, but or I guess in this stat sheet, but it's it's not how you draw it up. If I'm the O-line coach, I'm still critiquing this, saying we got to be cleaner with our reads at number 2.
Yeah.
You can't really fault Mateer in this case because he's properly reading his number 2 puller. He goes wide, so he goes wide. I'd put this on.
Same reads with the back and the other call, right? It's
Yeah,
like you said, it's a chain of reads. The guard is making the essential re kick or log, and then you tackle, and then the running back in this case, guard tackle quarterback.
yeah. So a big portion, not portion, but a big element of these polls is depth. So your center is going to be down blocking either to a shade, a 3, or even a 4-eye, depending on how athletic. Like we saw Creed Humphrey in the past, he was able to
Yeah,
down block all the way to 5 techniques. So
crazy.
you get number one at guard, you got to get out of his way. Number two is if this guy likes to use a surf technique where balls are on the 35 right here, which where he's just going to surf down the line and close space to try and play both. If he's going to do that, you need to be getting depth so you can gain ground to the line of scrimmage
Oh, nice.
to make that inside out near shoulder to near shoulder contact on the defender.
How do you know
So
to do that from the guard spot when your eyes are not on? Like his eyes are on uh in the grass right now, just looking at defenders, backer. How does he know as he pulls up to see if he's surfing that defensive end on the play side, surfing down the line? I mean,
athletically,
I think that guard, man. I really feel like that guard encounter is so important. That first read, you're talking about a chain of reads. I mean, he has to be damn smart. He's gonna rep this shit a lot, like a lot.
athletically, if you're so we're trying that near shoulder, so our left to his left, which means we're gonna have a slight angle in our run. So when we're running to the left, our shoulders are kind of like that. It is
Mm-hmm.
much easier to adjust to your left than it is to go against the grain and adjust up the field. Now at
Gotcha.
Oklahoma, at Wazzu, you'll see some dudes who are athletic enough to do it. Like at my level, I don't got nobody that can do that. I don't have anyone that can run to their left and then turn on a dime to their right and then hit left. Like I don't have anyone that can do that shit. So um, you tell them to gain that ground on their pull because if you do get them too close line of scrimmage, it's much easier to bend back up and take the hit off if this guy shoots up the field.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
Okay.
go too flat and he squeezes down to like it almost sounds like I mean a dick, but like to go back around inside and get inside like it's hard. It's so hard, and you need a split second reaction to be able to even come close. You're almost going to auto log it, which then causes issues with how defenses fit stuff.
Sure. Sure.
So there's lots of technique on this. Different ways to drill it and teach it. You'll put cones, you'll have bags, you'll have defenders, you'll have the scout team guys over there, and you'll just wail on them for a little bit. So, like this is a violent collision when it's run right, and it takes work. Part of what
Yeah.
makes this
No,
concept so expensive.
I I really think that guard. I mean, just from the outside, I'm not a coach or anything, but it just feels like that guard, that first read, like you said, that first violent collision is so damn important. Encounter is
Right.
so important.
So like here, that guard, like he's way too flat. Ball's on the whatever 19, 24, whatever it is. His pull, he should be getting depth and then almost working right through this little hash. Instead, we're going to see him go super flat down the line, and 12 is going to dip underneath at the last second. I'm sure he's taught to do to spill it. Yeah, so this collision should happen about half yard plus or minus the line of scrimmage. He ends up being about 2 yards deep of the ball and isn't able to get there. His tackle, I'm sure, saw that DN. He's like, oh, he's going to kick this dude out, obviously. So we get another misread by them. Mateer makes an excellent play.
Mateer just does his thing. this is this is a play that Mateer just does his thing.
Yeah, so like lots of these touchdowns, like we talked about the explosive potential of counter.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we watched quite a few explosive encounters, at least 4 or 5, which is about half of them, and none of them have been blocked right.
correct.
None of them. None of them have been blocked right.
Yeah. Here's your favorite,
I
the
do like this one. I
the
like this
guard
one.
running back.
I do, because I
This
just I don't
is
know.
it's really cool. I love this. It's just having a quarterback and then a running back that want like our running back would not have any interest. He'd be like, I'm not blocking for the quarterback. I want the reps. But um,
Hey, you put Xavier Robinson. Xavier Robinson, 230 pounds, dude. He's a willing blocker. He'll go rip someone's head off. I
I
know.
hope so. That's
I
always fun to
I
have.
I
It's
I I I think he would totally do it. I don't know if the other running backs would do it, but I know for a fact Robinson, X Rob would do it. He would go kill somebody.
so we're running counter to the right here. We talked a little bit about the tight end responsibilities. If you really wanted to, and some people do on a whiteboard, is they'll block their tight end down on a 6-eye and say, okay, we got him blocked, and they'll say they're gonna go kick this dude. When you think of it
Uh
logistically, it's
huh.
just you got I don't know weights of Oklahoma. It's like you'll have a two right, you'll have a 230, 240, and you'll have a potentially 260 to 280 who
Yeah.
lives in
No.
the trenches, who wants to go catch touchdowns sometimes. So
Canic should not Canic or this back this guy here in Wazoo number 24 their tight end is Cooper Mathers. He's 6'2", 230. And Canic of OU, who's our number one hype train tight end right now, is 6'2", 230. I don't think like you just said, like you cannot have a 6'2", 230 tight end, especially Canic who hasn't played tight end, go up against a defensive end, try to seal the edge on a 280-pound DN. Like you, just there's no that just can't
right,
happen.
so
Like you gotta arc you like you said you gotta arc him or you need to have help double team something. But in this case, by scheme, you can't do that. You gotta arc it and then
one of the philosophies, I guess, the base philosophies of counter versus gap scheme guys will argue power versus counter. And on a whiteboard, you'll say, well, when you run power, you've got a medium on a big and a big on a medium.
no, that's
When you
stupid.
run counter, you've got if you put, like, if we're going the other way, pretend he's off the ball, you've got a big on a big and a medium on a medium. It just makes more sense that
Yeah,
way. Now,
right.
there's other
But
arguments we made as far as moving pieces and time investment in the play and how you run it and what you do with the backfield, all that stuff. But that philosophy still stands. So when you're running it to the strong side, teams don't want to go revert back to the power concept dilemma where they got a medium on a big. So they're going to arc them to go block either the
yeah,
little or the medium. So right here we see an arc by 24, and what people started to do is bluff the end. So getting a little into the weeds here, but defenders will have visual keys and pressure keys. So this guy right here, like his visual key might be this tackle's outside shoulder. I mean, that's where his eyes got to be so he can get a read on what the blocks are. Defensive linemen don't just run around and say like, "Oh, I want to find the football."
right,
Right?
right,
They have
right.
strategic keys that are going to take them
Sure,
to the ball.
absolutely.
So they see if this shoulder goes away, and my pressure key is this shoulder,
Yeah,
so I get my hands on here. Well, if this goes away and this goes away, I'm probably being red. If this goes to
gotcha.
me and this goes away, my pressure key is here. Now I'm staying with leverage to the run.
Nice.
If
Okay, gotcha.
so there's different combinations that different coaches teach different ways based on the defense you run. When you bluff, if this is his pressure key, like if we figure that out in film, you'll give him a couple chops of the feet. He'll go to get his hands on you. I think right here he actually whiffs a little bit. Now he's just primed and ready for 61 to come clean up duty. Let's see if I said some bullshit or yeah, boom.
Oh, he does. He totally does. Wow. Okay, so he's sitting there and he's reading. He knows, he sees the tackle. So again, let's back up. Defensive end. He's hot. What is that? Is he at a 7 or a 6 eye? What is that?
I call this a 6 eye, or 7 if you're using old school.
Sure. So he's reading. He sees the tackle down block with that shoulder. He also feels the tight end arc off of him. Instantly, he knows that he's the read player. He is going to try to collapse that gap as much as possible to take the guard kick. So he wants to squeeze it down. Is that right?
So he wants, and look at the support. So like if you just draw gaps, like this is a pretty standard look. A, B, C, A, B, C, D, right?
Yeah.
So this dude's help is outside. He wants to force anything, any kickouts, anything coming to him. He wants to make it go to this D gap because he's got help there. He's got a free hitter.
Yeah. So
So
he's gonna feel that tackle go away, and he's gonna feel
mhm,
that tight end try to arc, and he's gonna try to work his way in and collapse that C gap down.
which is where the bluff becomes so beautiful. Because if his pressure key is his shoulder, if this guy just works away, he's immediately going to take his left shoulder and throw it to this tackle, forcing us to
Nice.
log and then forcing the running back to bounce. Well, there's that.
Bounce right into your help. Nice.
So
Wow.
the
Shit.
bluff gets him to try and get hands on this way. We bluff and leave to block that guy. When he goes to do this, he eats a little bit of shit, and then we get a good kick out. Well, now there's no one in the new C gap.
DN didn't quite play it. It looked like he was kind of wild. It looked like he kind of got himself a little unbalanced here because of that lunge
2
there.
steps. He tries to get hands on. Excellent bluff by 2-4.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
He lost his balance.
Pooh.
And it's too
And
late.
another miss. Like, this is textbook. We should be down the hash. He should be thumping him, and we should be waltzing in.
This is the beauty of football, because the amount of instantaneous intelligence that you have to have, like the instincts, and that's where it goes to, your job as a coach to try to get these players to be that instantaneous on the feel of all of this, and the rules upon rules, and the feel of the game. I mean, it is so damn hard, because if he doesn't lunge there, he could have changed the whole trajectory of the play. And then at the same time, Mateer, being the freaking baller that he is, just makes the most out of it and scores a touchdown. Us as fans just see a quarterback just waltz in the end zone, but actually understanding the anatomy of the play, and what actually, like, the X's and O's, the chess game that's going on.
That's what makes being a coordinator so much fun.
It just looks like Mateer just walks in the end zone, but you look at it, it's like, well, there was a lot going on here.
Yeah, so that's what makes being a coordinator so much fun, is spinning all those plates and being like, how can I teach this guy to look at 2 things, this guy 2 things, this guy 2 things, 2, 2, 2. They've got 2 things to worry about, right?
Yep.
Well, based on 5 or 6 different people, you've got mathematically 12 different possible outcomes. So now can I give this guy 2 or 3? This guy 2 or 3? How smart are they? How much can they handle? And then how many possible outcomes are there? And how can I make all those different pieces fit together when X player does X thing? Then you get to a game like this where you realize his pressure key is his shoulder. You go, hey, let's just bluff it. We'll change one technique and we'll make it a lot easier on this guy's 2 things. So now he's got 2 options. He's got 1 option. He fucks up his 2. Like, there's so many.
There's so many different variables.
Like defensive coaches say, every positive gain is a is a mess up on defense. Every offensive coaches say every play should be a touchdown, because if we execute correctly.
Right. Okay.
So
No, it was a good play. Mateer, I mean, as we're seeing this going through play after play, and as much as Some of these plays have gone wrong schematically. Mateer stands out, man. Like he's a baller. Like
Yeah,
I he's a baller, man. Like
absolutely.
I cannot believe that Arbuckle and Mateer just fell on Brent Venables' lap. I mean, this has got to be unreal.
And we haven't even done too much pass game where you see this kid rocketing this thing. This is why they do so much the quarterback run stuff in the red zone. There's less real estate, so those free safeties usually at 15 yards is now at 6 or 4 or 5. So now he's able to stick his nose in it, and running back got to make a play. So I would stand by, and we're going to do the Mateer stuff later, I think, but I would stand by our evaluation of I still don't believe Mateer is a very detailed inside the box ball carrier. I think, and
No,
I'm not saying
he's
he can't
not.
be. Like he has all the tools to be. I think he just all those things we talked about earlier. How much pass game are they putting in? How much is he studying that? How much
Yeah,
time is he putting into it?
yeah,
How much is he really focused on being a good inside the box ball carrier? I think he could progress in that area. I saved this one. This one's really cool. Sorry, but I think he
yeah.
could grow to be good at that. I think how they're coaching and teaching, if I had to guess, their counter. Maybe it was a decision not to invest a lot of time in it. Maybe they didn't um, view it as a very
Really?
high volume. I don't think that they were that great at executing counter. I think they
You
had some
said the
super.
same thing to wide zone too, man.
I
So
think
where are they putting their time in? They gotta put their time in something, wide zone or counter. I can't tell either. I guess so.
I mean, and again, like I want to read it. I have no idea what's going on in the building. It could be hell
We're
in a
right. No,
let's get
neither do I.
operate there. Right, but I only pin as a guy who's like, oh, materials, whatever, and Arbuckle is like, I don't know
Yeah.
the situation. So it's like maybe like these 5 dudes could be the smartest individuals and the greatest kids, or they could also be the dumbest that I've ever met. Like maybe they're
Right.
the
Yeah.
issue. I don't know. I hope not. I'd
Yeah.
assume not, but like maybe it's the O line coach, maybe it's the OC, maybe it's the head coach.
Yeah.
Maybe they invested practice time in the wrong spots. Maybe their pass games where all the time went and they didn't spend as much time in the run game getting good at this stuff. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just game day jitters. Maybe there's a lot of, I don't know if there's a lot of freshmen on this field right now. I have no idea. So I don't think that they were that great so far in these clips
Yeah.
of executing counter. From what I see in the rest of the film, I think this dude is just a stud. And he made a lot of people right. I think he is a rocket for an arm. I think they had uh some favorable, like we look at the film that we watched tonight too. A lot of Portland State, Hawaii,
Ho-
like so
Hawaii, Portland State.
a group of 5 in FCS. So
Yeah. The only team that really throttled them was Boise State, and
I would like to see game experience.
yeah, game experience, non-con. They're not playing for anything. They're
I
not
think
playing. I mean, they're in a shitty they're not even in a conference. They're
right. That's where I was going to go
I don't know.
is
I mean, it's just hard. None of them had NFL in their mind.
when I get the portal alerts.
Yeah.
So when you see like right now, I don't know what's going on at Tennessee State, but there's a lot of kids getting the portal. So it's like you just get like
Mhm.
a bunch of them in a row. You're like, okay, that's crazy. Um, when I was going to Sam Houston, they were going into a transition year, weren't allowed to play for championships, couldn't get anything like that. Their whole team left because the portal was, in effect. So
There's no conference championship. It's just
to be a kid who signed a scholarship to go to Wazoo to play for the Pac-12, do Pac-12 after dark, go up against
yes.
USC and UCLA, and then you hear that you're going to be part of the Pac-2, play a one-game conference championship against Oregon State, and then go play against some of your buddies who maybe you were a lot better than, who ended up at really good schools, but just in the Mountain West, like it's a different echelon than maybe what some kids were expecting. I would have to
Yeah.
assume a lot of kids transferred when they did this maneuver. I would have to assume. So these are probably super talented individuals right here. But I don't know. Maybe they don't have a lot of game experience. Maybe there's so many factors it could have been, like we've said a million times. But
Yeah.
I just don't think they're that great at executing counter.
No, and that's pretty interesting, man. And we've watched quite a bit of wide zone. We've watched quite a bit of counter. I mean, I don't know. Watching as much as we've have, it feels like we need. Oh yeah, so this is some of the passing stuff. It's like It's we need to get Mateer the ball. Like if it's running or if it's throwing, like he was the offense.
It makes me sick. This running back gives up on the play. One more step. One more step. If he catches this thing right here, he scores.
Does he not score?
No.
Oh, he doesn't. I thought he did.
I just saw the ref waving his arms. Oh, that makes me sick. You know, some of these are getting better as far as assignment. I don't know what order we watched these clips in either. Like maybe they got better as the year went on. Lots of options.
This is the back end of the year.
Okay. Oh, the
I'm pretty
reverse?
sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so with the GT counter or just the counter stuff. I wanted to put some stuff. You had counter with the rail, or it looked like rail RPO, and then
Yep,
you
back
got the
here. This
jet
was really
motion off of it.
popular. This
Yeah,
was
this
really
is huge.
popular
It
in
is
23.
huge, huge. I mean, this is Mateer's just making a play here. I think he held it for a really long time. And of course you got action and you got the Y there, 23 again, who was doing that little turn. He's sitting there kind of, is
23
that
is
like a
giving some
sniffer?
business on this one. Yeah, it's a tight end. Watch him just deliver some business right there. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Clnic could do that. I honestly I think Clnic can do we looked at some of the past game little tight end design plays to get some open passes, and I think Clnic can do some good there, but
Yeah.
it's going to
I
be some
mean,
of the traditional stuff of the
every team
guard
in the
wide
country ran this
counter.
shit in 24 or 23. In 23, everyone in the nation ran this because in 22, everyone started running counter. So one team did this and then everyone did it. The little spin by the Y. I'd be curious to see like what they start to invest in against Oklahoma. I wonder what you'd see if you went to. Do they have open spring ball practices? Like I wonder what
I
they'd
don't
be
I
running.
don't
You
I
know, in
don't
a
know
lot
if
of.
they're going to do that or not.
Well, they're not doing a spring game, are they?
No, they canceled it. Well, we dove into a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, deep in the weeds.
We went we went to a little everything. So I mean, I think we can sum it up with just with wide zone and counter. Arbuckle does have quite a few different run concepts in his bag, but we don't, as far as like what is his identity, it's sort of kind of unknown as far as like what is his bread and butter. I I I kind of lean on him going to Coach Bedenbaugh, and being that Bedenbaugh, the O line coach, is big encounter, that counter is going to be the explosion. You mentioned what did you say? You mentioned the wide zone probably would.
Like I'm kind of kicking myself now. I think I can see your argument with counter exploding. Um, I'd be curious to see. So like inside zone was their most productive. Counter was their third most called, second most productive. Wide zone second most called, third most productive.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see if they try to keep an even distribution of those three concepts and say we major in quarterback
Oh.
run and this is how we do it. Or if they lean more on like, hey, like I think we should focus on one of these. I would imagine there's a trend in coordinators getting more autonomy of their offense, of starting to like lean into something that's really comfortable to them. And that can mean different things, meaning like, hey, I know if I call this, I'm getting 4 to 6 yards. Like that can be comfortable to some people.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
hey, if I know if I call this, I got a 22% chance of scoring a 60-yard touchdown. I
Yeah.
also have a
Yeah.
60% chance of getting a 2 yard gain. Like that can be comfortable to other people. So I think I'd be, especially with his pass at Western Kentucky, a very explosive, high-powered offense. I'd be really curious to see kind of how he has all these numbers in front of him. I'm sure. Like, I'd be really curious to see how he views the data and what he chooses to do with it. I'd be shocked if they are all three concepts in the same distribution next season.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
But I'd also be
I
super
agree.
curious, like if anyone out there is like a press for Oklahoma, and you could ask him like, what does he view as his identity? Is my question. There's probably an answer. It's probably just not the answer that like we're looking for, where he's going to say inside zone or wide zone or counter. I bet you his answer is something along the lines of like getting playmakers the ball or getting the best person the ball, or,
Yeah, that
or having
yeah.
material with the rock, like, and that might be an area they're trying to grow. So it's like I think there's a lot of stuff right here that is super interesting as far as where I think he's gonna potentially take it. At least where my mind goes immediately. Or like they're good; they can keep calling everything on the sheet. So I think like what is the skill set of the backup? Is it anywhere near Mateer? Can you call the same things with him in the game? That should determine how much they run him. If that number is super high and they have faith in that guy, you major more in inside zone and counter, and you have a bunch of ways to run the quarterback, protect him with tight ends and running backs. Otherwise, you protect them with wide zone handoffs to get the defense running horizontally, pull people with counter, and mix in your quarterback run that way.
So we're thinking now after wide zone encounter that for next year that we would see inside zone kind of dip a little bit, and we would see wide zone tick up to protect your quarterback, and then counter. So inside zone dip a little bit, wide zone and counter go up. That I mean, like, and that kind of makes sense because I really feel like that because over the last several years with OU not really running much wide zone, that would be a nice little kicker for all the teams that have watched OU on film to finally have something different that they haven't seen before, that they have to prepare for, and then you've got the counter game, and then we've mentioned a few times Mateer and his athleticism and his arm would be a pretty good offense. Be a
Yeah,
pretty
I
good
just think the
offense
one thing
to
that can't happen is it can't be the same way next year if they want to have
no.
increased success. Like
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the formula of how they either practice, prepare, install, or teach, or call on game day needs to change a little bit. But I highly doubt I'm the only one who thinks that. I bet you those dudes who again are making a lot more money than me, like I bet you someone there's like, hey, like we should invest more in this because of the numbers on its output based on how much we called it. Like counter outperformed its call percentage. I bet you they're like, hey, maybe we need to invest more in dressing this up, improving this, and getting more consistent with it. And then like wide zone was not super well executed, but maybe they have a different opinion to where they're like, hey, like I think we can fix this, and there's high potential. So it really depends on how they view it in the room and of egos and opinions. So
Well, all right, man. I think we dove into all of it. I don't know, man. We went deep into counter, man. We spent almost 2 hours just diving into counter, and I think we covered quite a bit of it. We really left no stone unturned. So I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you for coming on, Coach Floden. Coach Flo, go check him out. He's got an awesome Discord, Coach's Den, which is awesome. Like, man, oh my gosh, I cool people, cool coaches, tons of resources, lots of. I mean, it's just I get on there. I'm a lurker. I just like to read. Like I don't really like. I don't have anything really to offer you. I'm like, oh, I'm a numbers guy, you know. Like, but
I
I'll
mean,
get on there and I'll
it's really
read
started as like a
and
coaches collaboration type space, and then
yeah,
a media person came through. It's like, hey, I need to learn more so I can do better in my job. And I was like, who am I to stop you? And then a high school kid came through. Was like, hey, I want to coach like my dad did, so I want to learn more. So we let him in, and it
yeah.
kind of just grown into a football space to share and learn and different ideas, different thoughts, opinions, and share film and resources, playbooks.
The most unrivaled source of coaches content made for coaches on Discord.
Yeah, and
There's no other Discord channel that has the amount of information and the amount of coaches that you have, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. It's
thank you,
really
man. I
really
mean,
cool. Yeah, yeah. Coach forward, and I'll put the Discord channel on there on the link and description below and everything. You remember, it's you got to be not an asshole and be a student of the game. But anyway, thank you for coming on, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Here in the next few weeks. I know you're moving and everything, so here probably when you get settled into your next space and everything, we can go into. I'm gonna be diving into Texas now that you got Texas loaded on that quick cut. I gotta know.
Right.
I gotta know how to defeat this Sark asshole that's down there in Austin. So, that's gonna be fun. And then we could do a quick, mid-tier run game, pass game episode or something. Well, lots of fun, man. Love talking to you, man. I feel like time evaporates every time I talk to you.
No, absolutely. I just love talking football. I mean, getting to watch film and talk about football, like, yeah, it's why you start coaching, and you don't get to do a ton of it in coaching. So yeah, it's crazy. But anytime I get to do it, it's fun.
Well, thank you guys for listening. That's Coach Flo. I'm Rob. Brad will be on with us next episode. He's moving too. He's got a bunch of stuff he's unboxing and everything. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. See ya. Boomer Sooner.
Hey, that is my standard. Champion standard. Yeah. Run my place, ayy. Keep up with the pace, ayy. If you don't got motion, then stay up out of my face, ayy. I be doing a race, ayy. 100 yards out of the way, ayy. It's time to lock it in the field, baby. It's game day. 7 rings you can't handle. I'm on a champion man too. Walk up to my standards. Maybe that's something you can't do. Maybe try a different angle. Maybe try a different play too. When you know you're the greatest, some people might hate you. Champ, yeah, I'm the champ. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Don't gotta put on a hat. Titles, you know we got that. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Hang my jersey in the rafters. I'm a champ. Champion standard. I'll tell you nobody's safe when it's time for game day. Put up or shut up, you know it's competitive. We will not ever take losses. Yeah, I be playing the game, but at heart, you know I am just really a boss. Youngin' or boomer, don't matter who's on the field, everybody getting sauce. Get down with the team, cause we really one-on-one, yeah. Hey, I'm the man, yeah. Watch how we make fans, while we also make this cash, hey. When it comes to plays, there isn't one we haven't ran, yeah. Competition's getting body, that's no cabin. Champ, yeah, I'm the champ. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Don't gotta put on a hat. Titles, you know we got that. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Hang my jersey in the rafters. I'm a champ. Champion standard. Champ. Yeah, I'm the champ. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Don't gotta put on a hat. Titles, you know we got that. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Yeah, I'm the champ. Champion standard. Hang my jersey in the rafters. I'm a champ. Champion standard. I told you nobody's safe when it's time for game day. I told you nobody's safe when it's time for game day. Champion standard. And we don't play. Champion standard.